Before we begin, I want to take some time to introduce our elected officials that are here. We've got a number of them in addition to Mayor Hovland, who's going to be speaking in a few minutes. We have City Council members Mary Brindle. Mary? Mike Fisher. I think Mike is here. Is Mike here? Yes, Mike's here. Okay. And Ron Anderson. Yes. And school board members Sarah Petzloff, Erica Allenberg, Ellen Jones. Is Ellen here?
No, she.
Oh. And Lenny Wallen-Friedman. Lenny, thank you. You know, we got to do, I got to do one of the things that I most like to do as Edina City Manager a couple weeks ago, and that's interview people in the community for positions on our boards and commissions. We have 10 boards and commissions, advisory boards and commissions that help advise the staff and also the city council on matters of public policy in the city. And we have about 100 different people that serve as volunteers on those boards and commissions. We have regular turnover every year because there's terms that expire, there's people that move away, there's people that discontinue their service for one reason or another. This year we had 4 positions that turned over. That's a pretty low number for us, actually. It's usually more in the teens. And we had 23 people apply for those 4 positions. And the thing that's, that I least like about that process is the level of difficulty. It is one of the hardest things I think that we get to do as staff, and I know it's one of the hardest decisions that council members have to make all year long, is to take a look at the people that have summoned up the courage or have taken the time to apply to be a volunteer on our planning commission or Parks and Rec commission or transportation commission or any of those commissions, and throw their hat in the ring and come in and interview with the members of the council. And then we have to say no to more people than we say yes to. It's difficult for that reason for us, but the people that we get to choose from really are top notch. It's really, really something. When we need somebody with a certain skill set, technical skill set on our Heritage Preservation Commission, they appear. When we need somebody with a certain set of arts experiences for our Arts and Culture Commission, they appear. When we need somebody for our Planning Commission with a particular professional set of skills, they appear. It's just, it's amazing. The other thing that it's always fascinating to hear is how universally grateful people are to live in Edina. We hear a lot of stories of journey to Edina stories, right? This year we heard a story about a young couple who just moved into the community a year ago. After trying for 7 years, they moved here from somewhere else for jobs. They moved to what they called a soulless northern suburb adjacent to a cornfield, and they found themselves spending more and more of their social time in Edina. Their friends were here, the things they wanted to do were here, and they wanted to live here. And every time they wanted to buy a house here, they got outbid, and they got outbid again and again and again. They finally got their house, and they're here, and they're so happy to be in this community. We heard from a person who grew up in Wayzata, did all right on Wall Street, and retired before he turned 50, and now he lives here. And wouldn't want to go back to Wayzata or anywhere else because he lives within walking distance of 50th and France, and just is happy to be here. And finally, we heard from somebody telling us a story that we hear a lot of somebody who's living in Lincoln Park in Chicago, had to move to the Twin Cities for a job relocation. And the first decision to make was, where do I want my kids to go to school? And that decision almost always is answered by the Edina School District. So where do I want to live within the Edina School District? This person wanted to recreate, to a certain extent, an urban setting for her family. And so she lives at 71 France in the Southdale District and is so happy to live there, so happy to live in an urban setting, and so happy to live in the Edina School District. So those stories are really kind of fun to hear. So we learn from those processes that Edina is really an intentional community, and people are really willing to put out their volunteer time and really give themselves to being and keeping this an intentional community. And it's a great place to live, work, and visit, and we hope today's presentation kind of reinforces that with you. So we're glad you're here. One of the things that we're introducing to you today that's different is bingo. Bingo. We hope that the concept of bingo is somewhat universally understood. There are a number of bingo cards. There should be a bingo card everywhere where you're sitting. You get one. I think in some places people like to stock up on bingo cards and operate many at a time. One per person today, please. So take it. If you want to write your name on the top of it, that's great. We have markers. Is that what the markers are for, Jen? That's what the markers on your table are for, to write on, and also to keep track of your bingo card success. So let me tell you about how we're going to play bingo today. If you want to play, please get it out, put your name on the top. During the presentation by the superintendent and by the mayor, they're going to talk about different subjects that appear as words or symbols on this bingo card. We want you to, when you hear it, we want you to mark off on the bingo card. And just like regular bingo, you're going to mark off an entire row, across, up and down, or diagonally. And when you hit the bingo, you should yell, bingo! Bingo! And you're not wired probably to yell bingo in the middle of Edina Country Club during a presentation, right? But it's okay to do that today. Yell bingo when you get a bingo, and somebody from city staff will come over and they'll quickly look. We're not going to verify your bingo like you would in a real bingo situation. We're going to take your word for it, and we're going to give you a prize. And we've got, I think, 5 prizes. So if you're one of the first 5 to win, you get something. If you're number 6, you don't get much, right? Okay. And we're going to play on the honor system, right? And we've got great prizes, including rounds of golf at our new Braemar Championship 18 golf course. So that's a great prize. All right, so that's golf, or excuse me, that's bingo. All right, so with no further ado, I want to introduce Superintendent John Schultz. John is in his 2nd year at Edina Public Schools. Before coming to Edina, John spent the majority of his more than 30-year career in public education in nearby Hopkins Public Schools. First as a 9th grade science teacher, then as a principal intern, a K-12 district science coordinator, district director of teaching and learning, and for 11 years as its superintendent. Also during that time, John intermittently worked in other districts, including as a science teacher at Breck and at Epsilon, a Hennepin County homeschool, as well as an assistant principal at Eden Prairie High School. Did I say that right? Eden Prairie High School. Okay. Please help me welcome Superintendent John Schultz. John.
So good morning. First of all, for those who are playing bingo, when I was a teacher, the reason my students did so well is I gave them the answers before the quiz. So what I would suggest is pay attention to the PowerPoint for those who are playing bingo, because I don't want to be accused of saying I didn't do anything or help you out. So we're all set to go. Good. So the theme today is, why is Edina a great place to live and work? Well, I have 4 reasons as the superintendent, and very proud to talk about those. Of course, it's students, it's teachers, it's partnership, and it's community. And so if I talk about the nature of our students, I'm going to talk a little bit about the nature of our students, talk a little bit about the academic prowess of the Edina students, the caring spirit of Edina students, as well as the leadership. And first of all, a school system is really obviously responsive to their students, which means our students drive the agenda. And Edina Public Schools really does a great job of giving them many opportunities for students. We have 120 arts, athletics, extracurricular clubs and activities at the high school alone. Students are engaged in all aspects of their education. They embrace every new learning opportunity, and they just make it fun to be an educator. And I got a story I'll tell you a little bit later on, even as the superintendent, as we interact with our students. So the nature of our students is one that is very inquisitive. The other thing I'll tell you is that our students are not passive. They are very active. They do things with passion, and it really does show. These are just a few of the team and individual student accomplishments. There's a list that goes on, and I actually haven't even touched athletics. The total number of state high school league championships has now reached 178, and that is absolutely amazing. The other thing I want to say about students being passionate is I got an email from a couple of sixth graders at Southview directing me, and I say that intentionally, they were directing me to put solar panels on top of Southview High School. And they wanted to talk to me about it and what they can do. So I brought our buildings and grounds leader along, Eric Hamilton, and we sat down. These young men had a PowerPoint presentation. They had a plan. They had calculated the number of kilowatt hours it would produce. And then they asked me, when can it be installed? So in my wish is always to meet student demands. I just looked at it and I said, well, we have an idea. And the school district is now working on putting up the solar panels. The board approved the solar panels being installed at the bus garage. So there's a lot happening in the district, but it's always tied to the students. And it is amazing that these students, sixth graders, had laid out everything related to a solar panel request. The other thing is the academics. We have 17 National Merit semifinalists, and we just learned those 17 National Merit semifinalists are finalists for the National Merit Scholarship. So all 17 of them became, we should give them a round of applause. A collaboration between ACT and post-secondary institutions across the country established benchmark scores that are predictive of success in college. And we are doing amazingly well on all those benchmarks on the ACT College Readiness Report. It's a sign that our graduates leave Edina High School ready for the next phases of their life. The other thing that our students do is service. And first of all, look at the smiles on those faces. And they are all smiles. Even though there's a question about the third one in the back, that's definitely a smile. I've seen that smile. Elementary days of service, they work together to make care packages and fleece blankets. We have impact days. They form assembly lines to make nutritious food packets that are shipped to other countries. Valentine's Day, they line up at kindness stations to write one another notes of friendship and encouragement. Older students, they give blood, organize annual Unity Walk, volunteer in elementary and early learning classrooms, hold fundraisers for friends in need. You know, Edina students and this community have very big hearts. And one of the greatest things that happens as an educator and as a superintendent is the comfort and the confidence that I have of the students that are leaving our Edina High School every day. They are leaving as future leaders. And in talking to them and listening to their ideas on how they view the world and how they see how they can change the world is very, very fun and comforting. And there's no doubt in my mind they're going to make lasting changes for a better world wherever their journey takes them. The second reason why Edina is a great place is our teachers. First of all, the teachers and staff in this district are so devoted to their students and really focus on that relationship they have with kids. They're highly qualified, they're passionate, creative, challenging new options for students. They continue to raise the bar for students. They offer support and encouragements that all students achieve, and also explore interests with students. So here's a few pictures of some staff. Janet Jans, her work in the music department at Southview will be included in the Oxford Handbook that is a teaching tool for future music teachers. Lindsay Smaka, the woman in the middle, is a science teacher, became a Fulbright Fellow. Megan Palmer received the Young Band Directors Award last spring. And the top photo of a group of Edina School bus drivers. Recognized by the district this August, that is 110 years of getting kids safety to and from school. And yes, a round of applause for them. It's National School Bus Driver Appreciation Week, and I think Minnesota should probably just take a day and really applaud our bus drivers because they have done amazing work in a very challenging winter. The other reason is the partnerships that's in Edina. I am just so comforted and excited by the ecosystem of giving that exists in this city. And it's all what's really amazing, it's all networked and interconnected. So these partnerships, the Edina Give and Go, the Meal Fund, Edina Education Fund, those are three big ones that we work really closely with and really support and really help us deliver our curriculum and give students other options and other opportunities to explore their own interests as well as maybe a teacher's interest. I also want to mention our city partners, fire, police, and our emergency medical system that's worked closely with the schools on crisis management. That has been a wonderful partnership that really builds confidence around our managing crisis and our drills that we do and the communication we give to our community. And partnerships always are great to have somebody standing next to you as we go through the annual fiscal challenges that any public school system has in the state as well as cities. Underfunding by the state creates this budget gap that the school board and administration and all the staff in the school works on. This year, the school board is presented with a plan to reduce $2.2 million. We did a lot of work to keep that away from kids in the classroom. And so we did some using other budgets to support the work that we have to do. But it's the climate we live in, and we're handling that really well. The last is the parents and community as partners. First of all, I want to thank everybody in the community that voted for the referendum in May 2015. If you haven't walked through the high school and want to see it, either call the high school or give me a call to walk through and look at that space. It is absolutely amazing where students and teachers have the flexibility to learn and collaborate and work with others, work with partners in spaces that are comfortable and really promote learning. And it is absolutely an amazing school as you look at that. I also want to thank those who have volunteered in the school. Who has volunteered in the schools? Wow, that's just testament to a community that really cares a lot about their schools. The many volunteers, the PTO leaders, community members, fundraisers, those who help with book fairs, chaperone field trips, write notes to the school board, commending teachers. We hear from you when things are great. We have concerns, and we welcome it all. So please know that we're passionate about delivering a great school system and need to know how we can always make it better. The photo on the bottom is the parent mosaic group that began last fall. And it's like a student group, but it was a group of parents that wanted to get together to learn about one another. And our assistant principal, Mike Protaski, coordinates that, and they meet around their passion, which is their children and education, which is just a great group. Here's another parent and community leader group, our school board, Matt Fox, Amir Garby, Sarah Patzloff, Chair Wallen Friedman sitting there in the back, Eric Allenberg, Owen Michelson, and Ellen Jones. 7 elected officials, members of the Edina School Board, who work very hard and spend a lot of time talking about education and what's important to Edina students. And in addition to the regular board meetings and work sessions and committee meetings that they hold, they also have been meeting to develop the district's next strategic plan. And that strategic plan is in process, and we're working on that, and we're excited to announce that as we develop that and finish it up. So those are the reasons I think Edina is a great place. The students, the teachers, the community partners, the parents and community, Without engaging and caring Edina students, amazing staff, supportive partners, and passionate parents and community, the achievements you see here in Edina Public Schools would not be possible. So I personally thank you for that. Our reputation is spreading. Over the past 12 months, we've had 16 Minnesota school districts visit one of our schools and to see what we are doing in Edina Public Schools, because they want the same learning experience for their students. So all of us in the school district, the parents and communities, and I think I can speak for the board, are working together so that Edina students will achieve their fullest potential. And indications are that we are succeeding, and we will continue to create more and new opportunities. Our students will push us to create new opportunities and find new ways to meet their needs and support their passions and interests. So it is a great place to live. It's a great place to work. It's a great community. I'm very honored to be the superintendent in Edina Public Schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the mayor of Edina, Jim Hovland. Jim is an attorney with the law firm of Hovland and Rasmus. He's been on the city council since 1997. He has served in the role. He has served in that role until he was elected mayor in 2005. You're living in historic times, folks. Edina was incorporated as a city in 1888, and Mayor Hovland is the longest-serving mayor in our city's history.
Not since 1888.
Not since 1888.
I know, it may seem like that to some of you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Through his legal work and through his work in Minnesota and around the country for U.S. Conference of Mayors and for the Metropolitan Council and for the Transportation Advisory Board and for others, Jim has really become recognized nationally from a state standpoint and nationally as an expert really in transportation field. And so he's really involved in transportation public policy, both at a state and a national level. He's also served on the Edina Community Foundation's Board of Directors for more than 2 decades and is an active member of the Rotary Club of Edina, the Morningside Club. Please help me welcome Jim Hovland, the mayor of Edina.
Thanks, everybody. This is always a wonderful day. I was just thinking about playing bingo at State of the Nation. How that would be in Congress. You may get a little bit of across the aisle thing going, a little bipartisanship going. It would be a good thing. First of all, I wanted to congratulate John and the school board on the wonderful school district that we have. It's just an incredible, to see some of the data pop up on the screen that you kind of have a sense of. It's really wonderful to sort of continually recognize how wonderful our school district is. And also John, the new refashioned, resculpted John Schultz, who's lost 35 pounds, getting healthier and more fit. So, and then we wore green ties today because this is Edina, but we also wore them in tribute to the Edina girls hockey team. So I was, yeah, I like that. I was out of town at a mayor's meeting. It was late at night on the East Coast, and Lorraine was sleeping. I was watching the third period and the double overtime on my little handheld, and it was really quite exciting. So congratulations to the school board and the school district for that wonderful outcome here. And then watching Sammy Reber kind of sink to her knees when that goal went in the second overtime was really, really pretty fascinating. I also want to recognize a friend of ours that's here today. This is his first public outing since he's had open heart surgery. Jim Nelson, who was Business Person of the Year in 2017, has been such a great resident of Edina for so many years. Jim, thanks for being here today. And Jack Rice, who helps us in so many ways, thanks for going and picking Jim up and bringing him over here today. So Scott talked about intentionality, and you know that there's an old adage, spectatorship favors fatalism. There's nothing in Edina that speaks of fatalism, letting stuff just happen to you. We don't do that here. We are spectators sometime, but most of the time we are active in the things that we do. Spectatorship is set aside when we're involved in community to make things work better here. And I could go around this room and ask each of you to tell us what you think makes Edina a great place to live, work, and do business, raise a family. We'd hear a lot of different answers, but some of them would fit into the categories of strong institutions, loyal and high-performing public servants, and tight-knit community of exceptional residents. I'm going to talk about our residents here in a little while. So are we ready to go? You want me to use this? Okay. All right. Where are we here? All right. So one of the things that, let's start out by talking about something that creates a special sense of place in Edina, and that's our market value. This is the combined value of all of our commercial and residential property in our community. So Edina has the fourth highest estimated market value for its properties in the state. At about $12.3 billion, Edina is behind only Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Bloomington. And we're not that far behind Bloomington. So if you start thinking about it on a per capita basis or a geography basis, 16 square miles, it's a pretty extraordinary town. So, builders are bringing new homes to Edina. Developers keep bringing new commercial and multi-use projects to our town that we carefully review to see if it's a good fit for our community. And of course, personally, if you own property in Edina, this speaks to the fact that you've made a solid investment. And one other way to express the notion that Edina is a great place to live. Residential development has been a trend in Edina for several years. Last year, 68 houses were raised for new ones before they were torn down. The average value of these houses was about $412,000. The average replacement value of these houses is nearly $1.2 million. And as you can see, this has been going on for quite a few years. I think collectively over the period of time it's been going on, it's raised market value in our property, in our town, with property value increases of over $600 million with these tear-down rebuilds. Those new single-family homes are the majority of the growth in our schools, the source of the majority of the growth in our school system. Some people have I guess, postulated out loud, asserted in a vocal sort of fashion that it must be these new apartments that we're putting up that are creating more pressure in the school district. But we've recently had a study done by our demographer, Hazel Reinhardt, our state demographer, that shows that the average unit built, this is an apartment unit now, since 2014, has just 0.2 students living in it. And one good example of that was the one that Scott gave, which was there's 241 units at 71 France. There are just 3 students that live in that complex of 241 units. So there are many choices for living options in Edina that appeal to young families and empty nesters, and these are just another way that Edina is a great place to live. One of the recent developments underway Thank you for that, Jennifer. And then we've got a follow-on slide of what's called Nolan Mains. And of course, the 2 primary developers there are Saturday Properties and Buell Investors. Nolan Mains, the main name of the project, is a mixed-use development that will be completed in the fall of 2019. The project includes new housing options. There's about 110 units, as I recall, new business opportunities, and a new below-grade public parking ramp centered around a long overdue outdoor gathering space and a public plaza. When this work is complete, it will make Market Street much more vibrant and make the 50th and France district a more attractive lifestyle destination. It helps us build out on the notion that we have a thriving downtown with small town charm, and another way that Edina is a great place to live, shop, and do business. We've got another batch of housing projects underway. There is the Avador near Jury's Foods, Edina Flats near Wooddale and Valley View. You can see those under construction. There's a set of apartments at 4500 France Avenue and Hawthorne Place on 49th Street, and we've got some others that are in the pipeline. So those are some of the ones that we've approved. And in conjunction with some of these projects that we've approved, of course, affordable housing has been an issue. I think housing that's affordable has been an issue many of you have heard about. It's something that's causing challenges all over the country. As we think about wages, real wages, just being on a slight incline since 2013, but housing prices going like this ever-increasing delta is creating problems throughout the United States. It doesn't matter if you live in Fargo or you live in San Francisco. People are trying to figure out ways that you can make housing more affordable for people, and we're trying to figure out the same thing here too. So this housing that's affordable, or another way to put it, as workforce housing, has been on the top of our minds for approval on these various projects. And Jennifer's got a video put together that will illustrate some of the things that we're working on and some of the challenges we face. Nicely done. Thank you, Jennifer. So this new Open Doors Edina moniker, or branding, if you will, is another way that we're helping identify the housing issues that we face, how we're trying to work on creating housing that is more affordable, and working hand in hand with our city's goal of creating a more sustainable and connected community. The different housing types we can create, of course, is another way of making Edina a better and better place to live. There is as I named some of these apartment projects, there is a misconception out there that some of these apartments, or the proliferation of some of these apartments, are creating transportation difficulties and overburdening our public infrastructure. We don't do anything without carefully analyzing what's under the street in terms of capacity for water, sewer, stormwater management, and then also what's above the street in terms of traffic. I've got some data from 2016 compared to the late 90s. In 2016, which is a year that we have the most current data from, traffic on France Avenue north of 70th totaled an average of 23,100 cars a day. However, in that same stretch, we saw 30,200 vehicles per day back in 1996. So there is this perception that traffic on France Avenue has increased in volume, but it has not increased in volume. There are some times of the day, I think, late in the afternoon on the PM peak, when there are some challenges going southbound, getting on 494. But overall, the traffic volume, at least illustratively on France Avenue, is down. There's also been some discussion in our community about tax increment financing, and an active discussion at the city council level. In fact, Mike Fisher, where's Mike? Where's Mike? Yeah, there he is. Mike's working on and has created a little presentation on tax increment financing that he's making to different groups. So if any of you are interested in having a group see this presentation, I'm sure you could get a hold of Mike and he'd be happy to visit with you about getting together with you. So this tax increment financing is something that we've used in a limited number of circumstances. As you can see from the data, we've used it 5 times on 52 projects that we've had. So that's over the last 8 years. Only 5 of the 52 major commercial projects in Edina since 2010 have been supported with pledges of TIF assistance, or public assistance, upon successful completion. One of the most, in 2018, only 3 of the 22 projects approved or under construction in 2018 included pledges of TIF support. Those were Nolan Mains, the center ramp has a purely public purpose, Pentagon Village, and 4500 France Avenue Apartments Each had some unusual challenges that caused us to think that TIF was appropriate in those particular circumstances for a tool that we could use. To give you a sense of the value of these projects and the value they're bringing to our town, we have some before and after comparisons. Well, this is 7,200, 7,250. We'll go there in a minute. Give you a sense of the value those projects are bringing to our community. The land Nolan Mains is being built upon previously had a market value of $12.7 million. It's expected to have a market value of $52.5 million upon completion. Pentagon Village had an initial market value of $5.3 million. It's anticipated to have a market value of $99.6 million when that's done. And 4,500 France Avenue Apartments had an initial market value of $2.1 million. That's the old Edina Cleaners site, and it's anticipated the market value there will now be $18.9 million upon completion with a little bit of TIF assistance. In 2018, a mere 2.7% of Edina's land area and only 3.2% of Edina's total property tax base was included within a TIF district. And I've got that slide up of 7,200, 7,250 France. This is where we have a project approved that's going to take that whole block directly across from the Byerly's parking lot. And just last week, the City Council agreed to provide $12 million in tax increment financing to address some of the extraordinary public costs associated with the long debated redevelopment of 7,200 and 7,250 France. In December, the developer secured preliminary approval for the mixed-use project, which will include approximately 301 apartments, 10 for sale townhouses, underground parking, and extensive public realm improvements, including a new shared street, which you can see, I think, down the middle. It's called Werniff. The new public plaza on the second floor of the building towards France Avenue, and then some traffic calming improvements to West 72nd Street. That property at 7,200, if you've been back there, is also a swale back there. It's been the gathering spot for water, stormwater, from about 8 separate properties. We're also going to solve the stormwater management situation with respect to all those properties in the process of approving this project and getting it built. The City Council will continue to consider the use of TIF for projects like this that will benefit the community in the short and long term. While we use TIF sparingly, we know that the investment in some projects is needed to continue to make Edina a great place to live into the future. Earlier, Superintendent Schultz mentioned the quality of Edina Public School staff, with the majority of educators having advanced degrees and more than 50 holding national certifications. Those public servants ensure the school district's excellence, as does our city staff. They also have these sort of certifications. This could be a bingo box for you. Our city is proud to hold double AAA bond ratings from both Moody's and Standard & Poor's. We're just the 5th city in the state of Minnesota to hold both of these bond ratings on a AAA basis, and we're only one of probably 3 dozen cities in the country our size to hold this double AAA bond rating. This ensures that debt is issued at the lowest possible rate. Our finance department works hard to keep up the city's financial records, keep them transparent and easy to understand, and we've been receiving national awards for that work as well. Edina is also very well served by its police and fire departments. The police department dispatches police, fire, and medical calls from our 9/11 center. And incidentally, we had about a half a dozen kids from 4th through 6th grade from Paysac, France, here this morning, and I was able to get over there. My wife Lorraine was there, the retired French teacher, and met the teacher and the kids, and we were able to give them a tour of the city hall, and especially the police department was what they loved the most. Put them in the holding cell. Of course, they kind of panicked that we were going to close the door, and they got to take their picture with some of the historical items that are in the hallways at City Hall, and they loved that as well. I would say what they loved the most were between the vehicles and the pictures of our canine officers. They wanted to have their pictures taken with those canines. So that was a wonderful thing. So, as you all know, our police department dispatches police, fire, and medical calls from a 911 center that's one of the few independent ones in Hennepin County. The Edina Fire Department Municipal Advanced Life Support Service was also dispatched from there. I'm going to give you some police statistics. In 2018, the police department issued 9,300 citations for speeding. On highways, the average citation was 18 miles an hour over the speed limit. On residential streets, the average citation was 16 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. So you can see our officers are giving people a little bit of leeway in there, but these citations, these 9,300 citations, there were some pretty significant speeds involved. The highest recorded speeding ticket on a highway last year was 120 miles an hour in a 55. And on a residential street, the highest recorded speeding ticket was 67 in a 30 mile per hour speed zone. Last year, Edina Police also kept Edina safe by getting 466 drunk drivers off the road. 466. 6 officers, that deserves a round of applause, I think, for our folks that are here. 6 of those officers were recognized by Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or MAD, for their efforts. Ben Wen Ondi, Paul Hooper, Jake Heckert, Ricky Haar, Phil Spangers, and Nick Donahue. Let's give them another round of applause. I can't tell if it's on this slide, but one of the things that we've been dealing with more recently is an increase in mental health calls. Our mental health calls are up 12%. I think you'll see it on one of the cards on your table. Up 12% 2018 over 2017. And the superintendent alluded to this just a touch. And I wanted to share a story with you that I received last week. I came home from this meeting and I had an email from one of our residents that said that the PD and the fire department had saved their 20-year-old son's life. He had a mental health issue during the polar vortex period, ran out of the house at 11 o'clock at night with just his socks on and a coat. And it took him 40 minutes, and neighbors helping as well. It took them 40 minutes to find the young man. He had to be taken to Hennepin County. They thought he was going to initially maybe lose both of his feet. But it didn't happen. He's recovering. The doctor called it a miracle. But again, yesterday, the dad wrote to me and said he wanted to thank the PD and the fire department for saving their son's life. So that's the story of some of the mental health challenges that we're seeing. So y'all know another group of employees who work hard behind the scenes are our Edina Public Works crew. With all the snow that's fallen in Edina, maybe you thought about them when you're out plowing, but that's just a small portion of the work that they do. And of course, everybody remembers we got a quality of life survey company that works with us that does about 500 cities in the country, and we're #1 in snow plowing. So you grab your successes where you can. We not only have a great school district, but we get those kids to school. With all the snow that's falling down, you realize that there's just a tremendous amount of good work that's been done. And that's not only in the wintertime, but in the summertime as well, with all the mill and overlay projects that we're working on. What do we have? Last year we did about 14 miles of roadway. And now we're going to talk a little bit about water main breaks. Jennifer, we're going to go back to the... So last year we had repairs on 46 water main breaks, but the one that we wanted to talk to you about was one that Member Brindle has raised at the council meetings. And that is, during the polar vortex, we had a water main break. Bingo, all right. We had somebody that's going to come over and hand you a prize. We got several.
I don't want to interrupt your speech, sir.
That's all right. Bingo is good. So we had some folks that got themselves in a situation where they had to work on a water main break during the polar vortex, and Jennifer's got a little video that tells that story.
An Edina Public Works crew recently worked for more than 27 hours to fix a broken water main on a day when temperatures dropped to 25 degrees below zero. Edina TV has the story on this very challenging task.
Edina utility operator Brandon Freeman has seen his share of water main breaks.
So I've worked for the city for about 4.5 years now. We've probably worked pretty close to, I'd say, about 100 breaks in that 4 years.
But when he got called to the corner of Macaulay Trail West and Gleason Road, he knew weather would change everything.
The minute we stepped outside, I think everybody knew that this one was going to be a little different.
With the temperatures hovering at -26 degrees and a wind chill of -50, Freeman supervisor Nate Katerlick knew the speed of his crew's work would be critical.
Basic protocol is to send my guys out there, diagnose the situation, call in leak detection to locate the leak, make sure it is on our main, and then we go from there.
After the leak had been found, Katerlick and his crew were presented with two choices.
So we could have isolated the situation and fixed it at a later date. Unfortunately, it was going to isolate the Gleason Tower, which is located at the Creek Valley Elementary School. And we were scared with the colder temperatures coming, it would freeze up the tower because the tower would have been left static. Ice forming in water towers is not good. It creates a layer, and when we put the tower back in service, when the tower goes back down, the ice is sitting there floating, and if that ice breaks off, it could create a water hammer, which obviously could create more water main breaks.
The crew quickly dug a hole, but found more water than they'd expected.
Basically, the hole ended up being a lot more sloppy than what we thought it was going to be, so the pump was having trouble keeping up with it. So we knew that we either had to do something now, or we were just basically going to lose the whole thing.
Wearing just a pair of hip boots, a sweatshirt, and no gloves, Freeman and his fellow crewmates took turns going into water that reached their chests.
The feeling of just being in that water, I mean, it just got to a certain point where the job had to get done, and if somebody had to get wet, we had to get wet. You know, you're not really normally down there very long, so it's not that bad. But in this case, every minute down there was terrible.
After 13 hours spent rotating in and out of the water, the crew finally fixed the break.
With the weather as bad as it was, then jumping into that, I think just at the moment it was what it was. I think immediately after, I think I regretted it more so, but we got out of there, got warm, and the job got done.
All the guys did a great job, knowing their role, doing their jobs, and completing the task at hand.
Something City Council member Mary Brindle noted at a recent meeting.
The part of the story that is hard to imagine is these guys are in the hole and they're up to their waist or deeper in cold water at 26 below zero. And that's life-threatening. That's hypothermia. That's really putting their lives on the line. So I want to recognize this team. And just a huge thank you out to the entire Public Works staff for what they're doing tonight, what they'll do through the week, and the other water mains they'll address.
All of us were more than willing to go down there and deal with whatever problems we were going to find.
And with that kind of can-do attitude, Edina residents can be sure any future breaks will be dealt with swiftly, but hopefully they'll be in warmer temperatures. In Edina, Dietrich Nissen, Edina TV.
Water main breaks commonly occur in Minnesota due to a combination of factors: the aging of pipes and the material they're made of, corrosion, and the continual cycle of freezing and thawing can all contribute to a break. The City of Edina's Utility Division responded to 37 water main breaks in 2018. The average number of breaks in a year is 30.
Bingo. All right, raise your hand. All right. Good. Somebody will track that. So we've got another group of employees at the city that are doing a wonderful job for us in a different way. We've learned as kids growing up, you could mark time AD, BC. We market in the liquor business as pre or post total wine. And we were chugging along doing really great work and netting about $1.5 million a year in our liquor business before Total Wine. And so we had some challenges after Total Wine set up shop just on the Edina border, and it made us better business people. Our net revenues went down to about $600,000, but I can now tell you that we're back up, it looks like over $1 million net, because of the changes that were made at those liquor store operations, along with some great input from a community team of volunteers that helped guide some of those changes. So for the third straight year, profits are up at Edina Liquor, and that of course means that we can put more money back into the community to support things like Braemar Arena, Centennial Lakes Park, Braemar Golf Course, and other Edina Enterprise facilities. So one thing I wanted to touch on briefly was our community solar garden. I see Carolyn Jackson out in the audience from our Energy and Environment Commission. But we had the first solar garden in the state of Minnesota. It's on the top of a public works building, and we're getting good accolades for that. Others are following suit now around the state with respect to improving their greenhouse gas emissions, and we continue to lead the way in that area. Lime Bike that you see here on the screen, last year staff worked to implement 2 new transportation programs. Lime Bike was one of them. We brought them in on a pilot basis. They brought in their lime green bikes and electric scooters to Edina this summer. In the first 6 or so months, 3,100 Lime bikes or scooters are rented using Lime's mobile app. I know a few of you, like probably me, saw them scattered around town in some odd places. That was a little bit disconcerting. We'll see how it works when we start in the spring, if we start in the spring. The average ride time was 15 minutes and about 3/4 of a mile in length, so a lot of people experimenting with these bikes. And as I said, we're going to continue to look at this program into 2019 to see if it's a pilot that we want to continue with Lime Bike. And then Clover Ride is something that we started with our partner Darts Transportation to improve and provide a circulator bus service in Edina for Edina residents and visitors. It's a reliable, continuous transportation service providing accessibility to senior housing locations in the Southdale area and gets them to places like Edina grocery stores and retail stores. And of course, this all helps make us a more multimodal sort of transportation city with different systems in place that make Edina an ever better place to live. And then quickly touching on a couple of other things that we're doing that are pedestrian related. We're working on the new bridges at Centennial Lakes. People in Edina love their parks. They're amongst the most cherished assets we all own together. Staff's working on the new bridges, overseeing those projects that should be completed by midsummer. There's our photo display up on the roof of the City Public Works building. Construction's also underway at Arden Park, over where former Mayor Denny Metzold lives. The Watershed District, Minnehaha Creek Watershed District is our partner. We're working to re-meander the creek, improve water quality, restore some of the natural areas. The project will include new recreation amenities. We'll get the entire park up out of the floodplain. We'll have a new playground and a new shelter building that'll fit the neighborhood. We'll have better stormwater management and, as I said, cleaner water and more fishing locations for the kids. If you drive down on Minnehaha Boulevard, you're able to see the creek for the first time. We're also going to replace the trees that were taken down, some buckthorn, some ash. With emerald ash borer prevalent now, we decided that we should do this at this point in time. But we're going to replace trees on a 4-to-1 basis down there. And then, of course, the project that all golfers all over the metro area are waiting for is the opening of New Braemar Golf Course. And a lot of you are going to get, 5 of you are going to get opportunities there, I think, to play the course. It's the first new regulation 18-hole golf course in Minnesota in more than a decade, designed by Richard Mandel Golf Architecture from Pinehurst, North Carolina. The old 27-hole course was stripped down and we created 18 holes. The new design has wider fairways with minimal number of hazards to create strategic options for all levels of talent. Mandel has also made an environmental statement by restoring more than 4 acres of wetlands and enhancing a bit over a half acre of additional wetlands, creating 32.11 acres of wetland buffer, introducing more than 33 acres of oak savanna throughout the golf course. Before it was even opened, the course has already earned several awards, including being recognized for design excellence by the American Society of Golf Course Architects. The grand opening for events is planned in May. These include a tournament to kick off play and the popular Common Man show of KFAN AM and FM radio will be doing a live broadcast from the course. We'll also be thanking the members of our league by giving them a preview to enjoy the new Championship 18. Edina is a great place for golf and an even better place in the future. And of course, for me, the top thing that makes Edina a wonderful place is all of you, our residents and business people. Earlier, Superintendent Schultz said parent and community members volunteered more than 20,330 hours in Edina classrooms and programs last year. The city benefits from a number of volunteers too. Besides the 100 volunteers City Manager Neal mentioned who serve on our advisory boards and commissions, another 250 or so volunteers at our various volunteer at our various facilities and in our departments. We have volunteer photographers. The Garden Council beautifies Edina's parks. A number of volunteers welcome people at the front desk of the senior center. the list goes on and on. There's an old African proverb that says that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think Edina has gone far because we've traveled the route together. And our citizens are the best living example of that, how we work together in a cohesive fashion. The city constantly strives to harness the community spirit and engage in meaningful dialogue with its residents. Another of the city's 4 goals is to foster an inclusive and engaged community. The city wants to ensure that everybody feels like they belong in our community, and we call this program Better Together. To achieve this, the city needs to clearly understand community needs, expectations, and opinions, consistently seek input from a broad range of stakeholders in a meaningful and interactive way, and develop clear roles and expectations in developing and further developing our community. We now have community engagement protocols in place based on the International Association of Public Participation Spectrum model, and are very intentional about defining the public role in a process. We've launched a new website, www.bettertogether.edina.org, to collect ideas and feedback, so I'd encourage all of you to go there. Though some of the work has already been done, such as training all full-time city employees, the city's first race and equity coordinator will soon begin work to oversee our race and equity implementation plan. We need your help with all of that. Staff can't do this alone. We want to be a place that makes Edina a welcoming place and welcome for all. Looking around town, you will see that the community is busy with redevelopment and reinvestment. City government both leads and follows those trends. We will do our best to lead and follow in a manner that continues to make Edina such a special place and a town that we all love to call home. Thank you.